I'm sure it was impolite, but I couldn't help reading over her shoulder when my eyes drifted for 1 second to the screen when I saw Jacob's name. Renee was asking why Bella hadn't mentioned him in a while. I bit back the smile that immediately formed upon reading Bella's reply, that she hadn't seen him much, because he was spending time with a pack of his friends. Cute Bella. As she composed the rest of her reply, my eyes wandered around her room, and eventually landed on the mess pouring out of her closet. I recognized the stereo my family had given her last year, and was concerned that not only was it not in her truck where it belonged, but it also appeared to have been quite thoroughly trampled. "What did you do to this thing?" I gasped. "It didn't want to come out of the dashboard." "So you felt the need to torture it?" "You know how I am with tools. No pain was inflicted intentionally." Though she was being casual, something about her words pained me. Why had she been so desperate to get it out? Had the sight of it really been too much for her to take? "You killed it," I sighed, a sharp wave of guilt crashing in on me as I tried to compose myself. "Oh well," she said indifferently. "It would hurt their feelings if they saw this. I guess it's a good thing you've been under house arrest. I'll have to get another one in place before they notice." Of course, I was sure Alice had already knew about the stereo massacre. I wondered why she hadn't said anything about it. "Thanks, but I don't need a new fancy stereo," Bella argued. "It's not for your sake that I would be replacing it." Thinking about the lengths she had gone to get it out of her car, I knew she must be eager to forget about everything related to her birthday as I was. I would have to make sure I got her a different model to replace it, one that looked nothing like the one that lay in a heap on her floor. "You didn't get much good out of your birthday presents last year," I said, trying to sound nonchalant. I was suddenly nervous that she would refuse the tickets simply because of where they came from. Her heart jumped when she saw me casually waving the tickets, and I held my breath, waiting for her response. She looked like she had been punched in the gut, and for a moment, the whole plan felt ridiculous. Why didn't I just buy new tickets to Alaska? "Do you realize these are about to expire?" I asked, attempting to keep my voice light. Maybe she would agree to use them if I told her how happy it would make my family. They had been a gift, after all. "No," she replied, staring at the tickets with a worried expression. "I'd forgotten all about them, actually." Having forgotten them is better than having destroyed them, like the stereo. I thought that was a good sign. "Well, we still have a little time. You've been liberated, and we have no plans this weekend, as you refused to go to prom with me." I smiled at the look of horror that crossed her face at the mere mention of the word prom. It was really a miracle I had managed to get her there last year, and not just get her there, but get her dancing and having a halfway decent time. She still wasn't responding to my offer, so I added, "Why not celebrate your freedom this way?" "By going to Florida?" "You did say something about the continental U.S. being allowable." I didn't fully understand her expression. It was like she was being pulled in two different directions. I knew a part of her wanted to see her mother, but it seemed as if she was fighting against herself, unwilling to give in to my request. She hadn't asked about Alice's vision yet, but I was sure it was too much to hope she had forgotten about it. Maybe she knew this was a diversion, and she was trying to be stubborn. "Well?" I finally asked, growing somewhat frustrated. I didn't want to force her into anything, but one way or another we were leaving Forks this weekend. "Are you going to see Renee or not?" "Charlie will never allow it." "Charlie can't keep you from visiting your mother. She still has primary custody." "Nobody has custody of me. I'm an adult." "A very good point, Bella," I thought wryly. "Exactly." Bella's eyes lit up momentarily, and I thought I might have convinced her. All thoughts of Victoria aside, I had to admit I was a little anxious myself to see Renee again. The first and only time we had met had been in the hospital in Phoenix, and needless to say, I was not her favorite person. Still, while she was obviously and rightfully upset with me for my part in Bella's accident, she had listened while I had explained how important Bella was to me, and had allowed me to stay in Bella's room without argument. Something told me that Renee was a very perceptive person, and she sensed the depth of my devotion to her daughter. I was looking forward to cementing that idea in her mind, this time under far better circumstances. I let myself grow excited and hopeful that Bella would agree to the trip as I stared deeply into her eyes. Then the flash of enthusiasm that I had seen on her face only moments before disappeared, and I could almost hear her voice of reason kicking in. "Not this weekend," she sighed, clearly disappointed. "Why not?" "I don't want to fight with Charlie, not so soon after he's forgiven me." If it was Charlie she was worried about, I felt certain I could take care of that problem. He wouldn't have a problem with Bella visiting Renee, and if he objected to me going with her, I would remind him that the tickets were a gift from Carlyle and Esme. They were given with the intention that she and I would go together. "I think this weekend is perfect," I said calmly, ready to argue my point until she conceded. There was no reason for her to put it off. "Another time," she insisted. With a deep breath, I prepared myself to shamelessly use a very unfair tactic, one that I would never use unless truly desperate. Guilt. "You aren't the only one who's been trapped in this house, you know." She stared at me like she didn't believe the words coming out of my mouth, which meant she was right on track, because they weren't true. I hadn't felt trapped at all. I loved spending time with Bella, and it didn't really matter to me where we were. Yes, it would have been nice to take her on a proper date now and then, but as long as she was content with us sitting on her bed, talking, holding each other, I would never for 1 second complain. "You can go anywhere you want," she finally said, sounding somewhat apologetic. Now I was the one feeling guilty. "The outside world holds no interest for me without you," I assured her, not wanting her to feel like she had been keeping me prisoner. She rolled her eyes in disbelief. "I'm serious," I promised. If we were confined to her 4 walls for the rest of time, I wouldn't care because we'd be together, and instantly wished I had never implied that I felt any differently. "Let's take the outside world slowly, all right?" she asked, her posture relaxing slightly. "For example, we could start with a movie in Port Angeles." Not far enough, I thought desperately. "Never mind, we'll talk about it later," I said, trying not to sound defeated. I didn't want to bring it up with Charlie without her consent, but if I had to. "There's nothing left to talk about," she said flatly. When I simply shrugged, her expression shifted. "Okay then, new subject." She now sounded determined, and the air of curiosity was back on her face. "What did Alice see today at lunch?" I fought the look of terror that was threatening to reveal how worried I really was. I had known from the moment I saw Victoria flash through Alice's mind that if Bella came right out and asked, I would hide the truth from her. I hated myself for even thinking about lying, but there was no other choice. The only consolation I could offer myself was knowing that as soon as the danger had passed, I would confess the truth to her. She would be angry, I was certain of that, but anger was better than fear. I refused to put Bella through any more trauma because of the realities of my world. "She's been seeing Jasper in strange places, somewhere in the Southwest. She thinks near his former family, but he has no conscious intent to going back. It's got her worried." I held firmly to my resolve, trying to remind myself of the necessity of the lie. When Bella breathed a very relieved, "Oh," I knew I had made the right choice. "Why didn't you tell me before?" "I didn't realize you had noticed," I lied again, inwardly cringing. "It's probably nothing important, in any case." Sufficiently more relaxed, Bella smiled and suggested we head downstairs to keep up appearances. We worked on homework while waiting for Charlie to come home, stopping to prepare dinner when Bella's calculus assignment had gotten the better of her. "Why is everything so easy for you?" she muttered as she threw her pencil down. "Repeat high school a few dozen times and you'll understand," I said with a sigh. Unexpectedly, it made Bella grin. "Planning on it," she said cheerfully, and I silenced the growl that I could feel building inside me. Although I hated all the disgusting food smells, I offered to help Bella with dinner, simply to be closer to her. She laughed at me as I wrinkled my nose, pushing ingredients quickly away from me and putting a pot onto the stove. The atmosphere was light and comfortable, and when Charlie arrived, even he was in high spirits.